It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays, and you see this big stack of papers next to me right here? This is my week. There's toilet paper in it. I don't know how that happened, but must have wiped a cat's nose. But I got to get through this week, which is part of the reason there was no Twitch last night. I don't have the spoons for more internet drama this week. I have work I have to get done. I am on deadline. It cannot be helped. And I'm still plugging through Boss Fight. I am multitasking like a boss right now. I can't do the drama thing. And part of Wellness Wednesday is talking about that stuff and modeling good behavior, right? That being said, despite the ongoing drama, and I know some people said, can you provide more details? I hear that. I understand why you want that. In this case, I don't want to rip open everything again, so I'm being deliberately vague. I hear you. It's a fair criticism as a rule and something I try to keep in mind. I'm just trying to keep the temperature down on this one. See that? Heard it? Validated it? Can't do anything about it this time, but still, I will make a conscious effort to make sure I'm clear going forward. Now, I'm going to apply that to this video about how to give constructive criticism. This is a difficult subject. I realize I've never done this head on before. Let me do the patron thing and then we'll get into it. If you like this sort of video, these do not do as well traffic-wise as my other videos, but they are, people like mention it to me as their favorites again and again and again. So please help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Part of me would love to just do Wellness Wednesday stuff. It helps people, but you know, the business model has to be there, right? The challenge with doing a video about constructive criticism is so much of the conventional advice is for neurotypical people. A lot of how to give constructive criticism advice is not people with autism friendly. There is a lot of context and more art than a science to it. A lot of nuance that I've seen it go horribly and hilariously wrong, and no one is at fault. It's just, yeah, I see how, you know, the neurotypical, neuroatypical divide just didn't get bridged there. So I'm very sensitive to that in this video just because I know my audience, right? The two big, you know, gold standards for constructive criticism, neither are terribly people with autism friendly, right? The feedback sandwich. The feedback sandwich, I am not the biggest fan of the feedback sandwich. I know not all cultures around the world practice it. And I have seen it go horribly, horribly wrong. You have to be absolutely sincere about all three elements of this to make it work. And a lot of the time people aren't. They do a lukewarm, shitty praise, really go whole hard on the criticism, and then lukewarm, shitty praise because that's the feedback sandwich. They are checking the boxes, but people are so practiced on this that I'm, there's the feedback sandwich. So it just causes me, here we go. This is where they're going to drop the bomb. And sure enough, then they did. And, you know, if the criticism part of the feedback sandwich is not properly constructed, the feedback sandwich is useless, right? Feedback sandwich is fine for corporate. But in this context, I don't find it terribly useful. Similarly with the very poorly worded I feel statements. I feel statements get butchered all the time And they go horribly wrong with people on the autism spectrum because it's just not the way some people think. Not everyone is a feelings thinker. We know this. I am not a feelings thinker. Anybody who watches my content regularly, I'm an I think person, not an I feel person. So every time I attempt an I feel statement, I have to rewrite the process in my head so I don't sound fake. Because it's fake. You know, what I feel statements end up being is I feel you're a liar, which is not an I feel statement, right? Or some kind of accusation. It's an accusation. It's a you statement prefaced by the words I feel. That's not what I feel statements are supposed to be. I feel statements are one technique to achieve the actual core goal of giving constructive criticism. Focus on the specifics of the situation, outcomes, or actions that bothered you, not the person. Not sweeping judgments of their character, not personal attacks. What happened? Not attacks on a person's core character, identity, anything like that. What does that look like? You know, if somebody says, "Hey, you know, there was an instance on Twitch where we were talking about climate change, and a person said, this is really triggering my anxiety." I don't remember the exact wording, but they weren't entirely clear of what was triggering the anxiety, but they indicated distress. And I stopped and said, hold on, I want to make sure what's right. What's bothering you? And it was talking about climate change. It was like an existential thing with this person. We changed the subject. Totally fair. That person wasn't going, you're bad for talking about this. Why didn't you know this would upset me? They just said, I'm bothered. And people respected that. That's what an I feel statement's supposed to do, right? Doesn't always work. So that's why I like to avoid that conceit and just tell people, focus on what happened. Don't start with why it happened. You know, this statement you made turned out to not be true is very different than you're a liar. How is it different? A lot of things happen where things don't turn out the way a person intended through no fault of their own. Saying, I'm upset that this is what I expected, but what I got was this, allows the other person to say, yeah, I was disappointed by that too. Things just didn't go the way we intended. This happened and this happened and this happened. And, you know, we all wanted better, right? You can support with evidence. It sounds much more reasonable to say promise outcome didn't match than you're a liar. Because so many people who get called liars nowadays, the word lie is just thrown around way too much. And at least for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here, the minute someone accuses me of dishonesty, I think, well, this is a waste of time. You can't have a dialogue. You can't have a constructive conversation if somebody's already saying the other person is dishonest. That's bad faith. Because either the person's wrong about the other person and won't hear why they're wrong, bad faith. The person is just flat out falsely accusing somebody of something they know is not true because they're angry, wrong, like bad faith. Or the person actually is a liar and there's no point in fighting with them because they're just going to lie. Either way, totally unproductive, which is why accusations of lying are non-starters for me. If you think someone is a liar, why are you yelling at them? They're not going to change. They're a liar. They're dishonest. You screaming is music to their ears because they got a rise out of you. I don't understand that internet thing. I don't at all. I'm not going to. I've given my reasons. That's another thing. If you want somebody to listen to you the next time and they've said, I hear you, I understand where you're coming from, this is the reasons why I can't make you whole here, respect that and take that. Because if you show that gesture of good faith, they're more likely to listen to you the next time because you were good about it the last time. Hopefully all this is making sense because I'm going to go on. Timing plus nature of the criticism is a big formula for being heard. Part of the reason that freaking out tends to happen over trailers is people think, well, the game isn't out yet. There's still time to change it. Well meaning, but wrong, right? By the time a game is announced, years and years and years of work have gone into that game. Little word choices, things like that, little around the edges, those can be fixed. Massive sweeping stuff, no, there's no time. That means breaking the whole thing and putting it back together again. So freaking out about a trailer, what a lot of devs go is, no, that's not what happened. No, that's not what we're doing. You're jumping to conclusions. That's what happens. And then if something is like somebody's really unhappy about something, it's like, well, this game isn't for you. And that's a totally fair comment. Right? A more constructive form of criticism is, this seems to be what you're going for here. If that is in fact what you're going for here, here's the problem. That they can apply. That they can go, well, that actually isn't what we're going for here. All right. Or, yeah, okay, that is what we're going for here. Oops. That's something someone's going to listen to, right? But that's not freaking out. That's making a connection with a person before you give them a comment that might sting. And that's what all these feedback sandwich, I feel, all that stuff, that's what all that stuff's designed to do. You got to make a connection with a person before you ask them to change something or do something for you. That only makes sense, right? Strangers on the internet, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. Some are bigger than others, right? But if it's somebody who actually seems to give a shit, or somebody who clearly cares about what you're doing, that's a whole different ballgame. There's been a lot of things, a lot of comments lately. I'm going to unsub. I'm going to unsub. I'm going to unsub. And I watched the person say they're going to unsub 3 days in a row. And all I sit there is like, fine, unsub. You're not telling me what the problem is. You just think I suck, unsub. That's your right. Bye. I don't listen to that. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got them. Another one, you've changed. You've changed. They don't say how I've changed. She's changed. They talk about me like I'm in the third person. Tells me nothing. Changed how? The only thing that seems to me that I've changed is I had certain opinions that you liked and therefore was good. And now I have other opinions that you don't like and you're yelling, she's changed, she's changed, she's changed. That sounds more like a them problem than a me problem. That just seems like somebody who can't handle differences of opinion when expressed that way. It's not constructive, right? If there was a shred of detail any examples, any suggestions, anything, I could find something to stick to and perhaps accommodate that person and perhaps be able to change the way I say things to be better understood for a particular class of people. But I'll tell you guys, every time I try to take that meeting, so to speak, it ends up sounding to me like just, we don't like what you're saying. Well, I can't do anything about that. That's my opinion. This discussion was supposed to be about how to communicate, not my guilt of wrongthink. Very, very different things. You know, people don't have the right to tell other people what to think. People do have the right to say, I would respond better if you presented things in this format or avoided certain words. You know, I try to watch the ableist language. It gets so ridiculous though when someone complains that I use the word nuts and that's ableist. It's too far for me to go. That no longer makes sense to me, right? Somebody who talks very openly about, you know, a year in PTSD therapy, I'm sorry, I'm allowed to fucking say nuts, okay? I get accused of it all the time. There are reasonable requests and then there are unreasonable requests. And this is where it gets really difficult because some of those reasonable/unreasonable requests are situational, right? And this is why we talk about timing. And there are certain things you can't possibly know, right? If somebody doesn't disclose they're going through something at the time, you can't know, right? But if somebody's actively being dogpiled, is adding to it gonna be persuasive? No, right? No. No point. No point in adding to it, right? Not if you want to be heard. If you just want to piss in the person's swimming pool, but that's a great way to get blocked, muted, or they're going to remember you kicked them when they were down. That's a very important thing. There are certain people I don't block, but oh, I remember that they were an asshole. I give them the opportunity to build back from it. Some people do, but I remember. And it takes a lot for me to remember certain things because I get so many randos on a regular basis. But timing matters, right? Quiet moments are better. If you come screaming out of nowhere at someone, that's not going to work no matter when you do it. A very difficult skill to learn with criticism is keeping your language positive, even when you're critical. This is a thing that people have. Positive isn't even the right term. That's what they say in like business courses. But, constructive doesn't quite cover it. Positive doesn't quite cover it. You can say things in a way that does not make a person feel dumped on. Supportive language is probably the best way to go at it, right? The example is, I'd really like to see you do more of this content instead of, I don't like this content. And this is so critical, right? Trust me, there is a big difference between me reading a comment of, I don't like this stuff. I like her other stuff. I don't like this stuff. I'm like, you're just a fucking malcontent. So watch the other stuff. You don't have to watch this stuff. The videos are clearly labeled, right? There's different themes for different days. Just watch the days you like. But if somebody said, look, people say, I really like Wellness Wednesday. That means a lot because then, okay, the numbers aren't there, but the enthusiasm is. And because of the nature of these segments, I keep doing them. There are non-monetary, qualitative instead of quantitative benefits to continuing to do these segments. You're pointing for a direction for someone to run to instead of running from. And if you are a creator of any amount of time, any amount of experience, you realize very, very quickly you don't move until you know where you're going. You don't just go around in circles trying to spin the wheel of what people want. You have to have a plan and you have to have a direction before you set out, or you end up burning a lot of time, effort, and money and other people's patience. Two more things. Even though people are probably like super overwhelmed, I will summarize, don't worry. I am very hesitant to rip this Band-Aid off, so I'm going to do it backwards. Before you criticize somebody, does it really need to be said? Does the person already seem to know and they're going, uncle, right? Has a person already considered the argument and given reasons why it's not compelling or why they can't do it at this time? If they've done that, what does screaming at them more do other than make you seem unreasonable, right? They've already said, I hear this is why I can't do it, or this is why I won't do it, you know? Screaming at me about it isn't going to change my mind. For me, the big thing on this one, and people have been a lot better about it lately, but for a while it was really very nasty, was putting pronouns in my social media bios. I don't believe in it. I have personal reasons for not doing it. Part of it there are certain conversations I just don't want to have with my family. They don't understand all this stuff. Better to leave it lie. But others are, you put anything on the internet, it is a weapon against you. Anything you present can be used. Why would I give people another piece of ammunition? The issue I have with pronouns is the idea of preference in and of itself, right? What do I prefer to be called? Well, it's the Joe Jackson lyric, right? From Real Men, like, don't call me up unless you're a friend. There are some people that, they refer to me as certain things. I have absolutely no issue with it. Other people, I know it's nasty. And so, do I have a preference? No. But then, of course, you get, you're fine if people call you a man? Well, some people. You can call me that if you're my friend. You know what I mean? Like, it happens all the time. But, I mean, it's funny because back in the day, the old Peanuts cartoons, it was an ongoing thing of Peppermint Patty calling Marcy calling Peppermint Patty sir. Could you imagine that today? And of course, there are certain people where I admit I see red when they actively refer to me as female. Because in certain situations, I don't want to be seen as female. I want to be seen as a professional. Just anybody else, take that out. It has no place in certain places. For me, I don't want to be judged that way there. So the whole issue, no matter what I put, is dishonest. That's not allyship. That's performative. That would be me just doing what was easy instead of what was right. So no matter how many times somebody gave me shit about support and allyship and this and that, not the other thing. I'm like, nope. And then I saw what happened to Gina Carano and I'm like, shit. But no, I wasn't going to do it. I hear your reasons. I understand your reasons, but don't ask me to lie. And then I get called a liar all the time. Do you see the give and take? Does it need to be said? Do I need to say this? Do you really need to pressure me on this? No. You have your reasons, I have my reasons. Let's move on, please. Let's move on. You know? Do people need to keep calling me a liar and bringing up things that happened a month ago? No. It no longer needs to be said. You made your point. You were wrong then. You're wrong now. That doesn't change. And tone does matter, right? Like, especially on something like that. If somebody comes to me and says you're normalizing it, everybody's doing it, so it's not awkward when someone does offer it. All right, I see that point. But I've given my reasons. Now, is that going to become a fight? No. Because it's even keel, right? If somebody comes at me and is like, you should do this because I'm doing it and grandstanding on the internet, they will get snark. You know, the people that even made me consider posting anything, tortured myself for months about it before deciding not to, were the people that came to the table with respect. And this is why I don't like referencing tone. It's really not about tone. I know I just said tone matters, but I'm trying to make this a neuroatypical friendly video, right? It isn't about tone. It's not. It's about the inherent respect and dignity quotient of the message. We get into tone policing. I'm taking that off the table. Okay, I'm saying this in multiple ways so it'll click with different people. The number of people who, I can only speak from my experience, but come at me like, from my perspective, a ton of bricks and accuse me of, among other things, dishonesty is the big one. You're being dishonest. You're disingenuous. And when I go, I'm not responding to that. Why? I was polite. I was respectful. There's no way to politely and respectfully call someone dishonest. There just isn't. If they actually were dishonest, there's no requirement to be polite. Dishonesty is bad if they're actually being dishonest. There is a time and a place to be rude. There's a time and a place to be angry. There's a time and a place to really dig in. There are things that are just important. There are you shall not pass moments. In order to seem like you're giving constructive criticism, you have to display the ability to know the difference. And I go back to accusing someone of lying over a cartoon or TV show or movie or video game to people who do this for a living will get you tuned out. That is just the reality. Yell at me all you want. Anybody who does this for any period of time knows the only time you knowingly lie about something is when marketing or the C-suite is forcing you. And a lot of creators would actually rather just bow out and not do it than go out there and knowingly lie. You can be mistaken. You can say things that just get interpreted totally the wrong way, but nobody in their right mind just goes out and lies. I know I've had it where I go out and say, like, this is the plan. And then the next day, the plan changed. And then I say to them, guys, I just went out there and told them this was the thing. Well, it's development. Things change. It's like, but they're going to think I lied to them. You have an NDA. What does a person do in that situation? And they didn't lie at the time they said it, and they couldn't correct it. So all you're doing by calling a person a liar is putting them between a rock and a hard place. Now, full disclosure, every time I have been in that situation, I fight it and get fired, or I walk. I will not put myself in those situations. I will not knowingly participate in, I consider that I wasn't being dishonest at the time. I do think the practice of changing something and not letting somebody correct the record, I do find that dishonest. Happens all the time because you deliver the talking points marketing wanted. Marketing wasn't up to date with what was actually going on with the game, but you can't speak out of turn, or marketing gets someone else. And then you're less useful to the production. But that's part of the reason I get so annoyed when people call me a liar, because I have walked. I have given up money. I have given up credits. I have had my reputation trashed by bad actors who spread bullshit about me while they were holding me to an NDA. I couldn't prove, well, I could kind of prove they said it, but it was under internet pseudonyms. Oh, that internet anonymity. I know exactly who said it because I know the version of events came from that group, but it won't hold up in court. So I'm honoring the NDA because they'll come after me, but they're not. But I know what the truth is. I know I walked because I found the practices dishonest, you know? And if you're coming at someone with an accusation that is the opposite of what's actually going on, not only can you not prove it, it's the opposite of proof. People aren't going to listen to you the next time, or the time after that, or the time after that. You've given them active reasons why they shouldn't. Your opinion's not useful. It's not based on reality. And nobody listens to something they think isn't based in reality. That just makes sense, right? So you can't have it that you complain that you're not being listened to, and then you're, actively associating with people who are going out and saying, I just want to piss in their pool every so often because they won't listen to us anyway. We track what Reddit say. People tip us off. And the minute we see that from any given Reddit, that's a reason to dismiss the Reddit. This is all public, guys. This is all public. We hear it. We get told the source of these dog piles. And quite frankly, I think that sort of thing should be against rules of subreddits that want to be heard. That's my bit of feedback, is if you want anybody to take you seriously, those users should get booted. Why? They're making you less effective. If you really want to advocate, if you really want to be heard, if that's your goal, they shouldn't be there. If you just want to be a subreddit that pisses in people's pools, that's fine, but don't complain when you're ignored or told to fuck off. That's accountable. That's accountability. And people listen more to criticism from accountable sources because it's more constructive. Period. End of story. And that's the recap. All these heuristics, all these tricks, all these shorthands are just about being accountable, right? You're accountable in, would I be open to hearing feedback this way? Yes, no. Have I tried this with a person before and got a bad reaction, so I'm likely to get a bad reaction again? Yes, no. You know, am I focusing on the situation or action or product, not the person? Yes, no. Is the timing right? Does it need to be said? Do I have suggestions of how to improve the problem? And am I coming at this respecting the dignity of the other person? You know if you're angry and just looking to beat on someone. Denying it just makes you look like a bad actor. It is really important you get your anger sorted. And that does not mean get it under control. Like I said, there's a time and a place to be angry. But you got to get it sorted before you approach anybody. I've talked about my litmus test before. If I can't joke about something, I don't say anything because I'm not being objective, right? I need the joke because then it's like, okay, I can keep it. I'm not going to just fly off the handle and go overboard, you know? Was I seriously pissed that there was a cross in an alleged synagogue in The Last of Us 2? Yes. Woke game of the fucking century does something patently offensive like that and doesn't fix it for months. I admit I'm still pissed off about that. But we still joked about, you know, Amir the Rock and all that stuff. And Abby has Big Bonk and all that stuff. And the very fact that the community still had jokes and memes and everything like that we continue to this year, to this day, we can still laugh about the game, indicates that we are able to keep the parts we found patently offensive in check, you know, and you can still say, no, the graphics for the most part were gorgeous, which is why it was so disappointing that Abby's head didn't have the same fat content of the rest of her body and her biceps were shaved down. Utterly gorgeous graphics, which just made those obviously not realistic and no less some dude's fantasy than the titty girls. Like, it's just a lateral move, right? Abby can't exist in the real world. Anime girls can't exist in the real world. Neither are better or worse. So stop telling me Abby is somehow superior because it's a muscle fetish instead of a waifu fetish. That's fair, right? It's not just screaming, she looks like a man. So what? She looks like a man. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? I don't think she looks like a man. I think she looks like a muscular woman. She's just one woman's head, another woman's body, and a third woman's voice. Why do you need that many? That's the difference between feedback that I know pisses off some people because they can't refute it. They can't refute the facts. They hate me for it, but they can't dismiss me. As opposed to stuff that's just going to get binned. Because it's, so what? So there's no context. There's no context. Why should I listen to you? You always have to give people the why they should listen to you if you want to be heard. Period. End of story. And I know that this video is long. This is one of those things where I do think that I need to say things different ways because one way of explaining something, like I said, will click for somebody, something else. And for the people who complain that you ramble and this, that, next thing, no, I'm not rambling. I'm saying things in different ways because this phrase might click with this person. This phrase might click with this person. It's a method of pedagogy that works for people who are looking for things to go, I can use that, as opposed to people who are looking for things to complain about. And you don't want to out yourself as a person looking for things to complain about because then your complaints are empty. Okay? Okay. Awesome. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.